Colonel George Washington Miller journeyed through the Cherokee Outlet in 1879 with his 11-year-old son Joe, hoping to find rangeland that would be good for cattle. Originally from Kentucky, Miller had already set up an operation in Kansas and the northeastern part of Indian Territory. The outlet, measuring 60 miles wide and 180 miles long, extended across Indian Territory along the Kansas border. It was a region where cattle ranchers could lease land from the Cherokees, but were prohibited from purchasing it. Miller leased the outlet for the first time that year, setting the groundwork for the 101 Ranch. Since 1871, Miller and Lee Cockernut have collaborated to market their calves under the LK brand. However, by 1881, he was operating independently and needed a new brand. He went with the simple 101, which his sons Joe and Zach claim were influenced by some rough and tumble in San Antonio, Texas, while GW and Joe were gathering cattle to head north. At that time, San Antonio was a lively cow town where cattlemen could enjoy a hearty meal at the Menger Hotel, and cowboys could have a good time at various saloons. One such establishment was located at 101 East 2nd Street and unimaginatively named the 101. It was here that GW and Joe, along with their trail boss Gid Guthrie and several cowboys, gathered for a farewell dinner before driving the herd north. According to family stories, some of the cowboys indulged a bit too much, got rowdy, and threw a few punches, leading to their eviction. As they left, one cowboy grabbed the 101 sign from the bar, attached it to the chuck wagon, and later nailed it above the cook shack upon returning to the ranch. Colonel Miller covered the damages at the saloon, then headed the herd north along the Chisholm Trail. He allegedly declared, "This time we'll brand 101. When I'm done, I want this hard-working team to be so sick of those figures that they'll drive 10 miles outside of town to escape the honky-tonk sign." Legends from the ranch state that not one of the cowboys ever went back to the saloon in San Antonio that had given the name of the ranch and its brand to the cattle. In the early days of managing cattle on leased lands in the Cherokee Outlet, Colonel Miller developed a mutually beneficial friendship with White Eagle, a respected Ponca chief. The Ponca people had the opportunity to relocate to the Cherokee Outlet, gaining access to better land and improved living conditions, while Miller hoped to lease some of those Ponca lands for his ranching business. However, the lands the Poncas ultimately controlled in the outlet were not what Miller wanted, so he struck a deal with the Cherokees for 60,000 acres in two large pastures, one on Deer Creek, a tributary of the Salt Fork of the Arkansas River, which became known as the Deer Creek Ranch, and the other known as the Salt Fork Ranch. The two ranches were combined to form the bigger 101 Ranch, which is situated southeast of Ponca City, Oklahoma, and is named after Miller's trail brand. Although Miller did not lease land from the Poncas, he maintained a strong relationship with them, supplying them with beef. Later on, his son Joe would involve some of the Poncas in various enterprises at the 101. The 101 Ranch was founded by G.W. Miller and his wife Molly, but their sons were the ones who made it a nationally renowned enterprise. Tragically, Wilkes Booth and John Fish, the first and third sons of G.W. and Molly, both died at an early age. However, their second son, Joe, became a capable assistant to his father, while the younger sons, Zach and George Lee, were taught to uphold the ranch traditions. The Millers also had a daughter named Alma. Their father instilled the ways of cattle ranching in the boys before his passing in 1903, when the ranch was generating over $500,000 annually and employing more than 250 cowboys to manage the tens of thousands of cattle across a vast expanse of land measuring 172-mile square sections, or over 110,000 acres. After G.W. died from pneumonia, Molly went on to build an impressive home known as the White House, where she lived on the land that had fostered their dreams. At just 12 years old, young Joe was given a roll of cash by his father and sent to Texas to bring back a carload of cattle. He was also quite the showman, riding difficult horses both on the ranch and in rodeos. Later, he created a Wild West show that featured some of the Poncas his father had befriended. To further diversify the ranch, Joe started raising corn and hogs, using agricultural science to boost production. Zach, who was a strong cattleman like his father, took charge of trading and marketing the ranch's products, while the youngest son, George Lee, eventually became the financial manager. The vast 101 Ranch boasted schools, churches, its own network of roads, a telephone system, and even a horseback mail delivery service. The Miller operation included oil and gas wells, trains, grapevines, canneries, tanneries, packing houses, poultry farms, novelty shops, carpentry companies, and a general store that accepted government funds in addition to 101 ranch folded scrip, brass, and copper coins. As Zach Miller remarked in a 1928 interview with American Magazine, "We figured it wasn't much harder to do things on a large scale than it was to struggle along in a small way. We believed it was no worse to fail big than to fail small, but it was certainly much better to succeed big." One of the standout successes was the 101 Ranch show, billed as the real thing, and it truly was. Notable figures like Geronimo, Hoot Gibson, Tom Mix, Bill Pickett, and Lucille Mulhall all played roles in this grand spectacle, which emerged from the natural rivalry among cowboys on the range. In September 1883, young Joe Miller, along with Ponca Chief White Eagle, led a group of Poncas to the Alabama State Fair, where they established an Indian village to showcase traditional dances. It took several years for the show to gain prominence in Western entertainment, but on June 11, 1905, the 101 Ranch hosted a cowboy reunion for the National Editorial Association convention. The event featured a thrilling buffalo chase and various specialty acts, including the roping and riding skills of 19-year-old Lucille Mulhall, a world champion roper from Mulhall, Oklahoma. She captivated audiences, including Presidents Theodore Roosevelt and William McKinley at events in Oklahoma, St. Louis, and Washington, D.C. Also featured in the show was Bill Pickett, a black cowboy renowned for creating the sport of bulldogging. Instead of using his hands and strength to bring an animal down, he subdued it by biting its upper lip. Alongside him were Apache Chief Geronimo and Oklahoma cowboy Tom Mix, who would go on to gain fame as one of the first film cowboys. Cattle, corn, and hogs were the foundation of the 101 Ranch, but the venture later expanded to include a Wild West show and funded energy development, such as wildcat oil and gas wells, as well as motion picture projects. The ranch faced challenges along the way, including murder charges against Zach, who was acquitted, cattle theft charges against GW, who passed away before the case went to trial, and various disputes between the brothers over land ownership. These troubles culminated in the 1920s, which were undoubtedly a difficult time for the ranch, ultimately resulting in Joe's suicide in 1927 and George's death in a car accident 2 years later.